Over the last 2 years, I've made video after video after video documenting the worst that TikTok has to offer. We're talking the likes of scammers, racists, predators, murderers, unhinged lunatics, and much, much more. In fact, I've spent weeks of my life researching, writing, recording, and editing such stories, bringing them to life within 5 different videos, and today we're putting them together. Whether you're an older viewer and you've already seen these, but you want to look back over them, or you're new to the channel and you've never witnessed the depravity that the depths of TikTok have to offer, over the next 2 hours we're leaving no stone unturned as we bite into this forbidden fruit. So that's enough out of me. I'm gonna shut my mouth and let you guys get to the first video we have today, shot almost 2 years ago. So without further ado, let's get into it. He has become one of the most notoriously infamous people on social media over the past 6 months. Being arrested a number of times for his activity on the internet, the story of Mizzy is one of remorseless crime and corrupt ambition. If you don't know this man by looks alone, you might know him by what he's done. Real name Bakari Ogaro, his backstory might help us understand the circumstances that led him to where he is today. The now 18-year-old Londoner was never a role model student with behavioural issues from at least the time that he was in secondary school. In an article written by The Tab, it said that he started content creation in year 8 when he would have been roughly 12 to 13 years old. The reason he started was that he was allegedly suspended from school a number of times. Perhaps his new hobby gave him something to strive for. Perhaps it gave him a purpose. For the next few years, he would follow down this route, making videos, but soon he learnt a fundamental lesson of content creation which would guide his life down a dark, new path. Online audiences, for the most part, gravitate towards the extremes. They want to see something remarkable, they want to see something big. Mizzy realised that every time he upped the ante, his videos would generate more views, and so that's exactly what he did. In pursuit of online fame, he pushed his videos to the max, and while this would perhaps work at the start, it was unsustainable. His first feature in the mainstream news would come in January this year after he was accused of anti-Semitism. He allegedly went on a one-man hate spree with Orthodox Jews as his target. He can be seen in 2 separate TikTok videos messing around with these men. In the first one, he blocks an Orthodox Jewish man's car and gives him an unwanted hug. In the second, he ran and jumped on a Jewish teenager's back. That same day, he also went up to a third Jewish man saying, "You're under arrest, give me everything you have."
Hey, you're under arrest, bro. What do you need? Give me everything you got, bro. Hello?
Though he made no attempt to actually steal from this man, this was purely a verbal threat. Then in another video, this one uploaded to Instagram, he's seen wearing a traditional Jewish hat and is quoted as saying, "I'm a fucking Jew."
Guys, I'm a fucking Jew.
Clearly this was targeted as all of these men were Jewish and these were all done on the same day. What I'm more shocked with though was that third clip, as Mizzy didn't record this one, the footage was released from a security camera. What this tells me is that even if Mizzy is putting on an exaggerated persona for the cameras, he still acts like this when they're turned off because he didn't know he was being recorded. He went out of his way to harass an innocent Jewish man for no reason. He was arrested afterwards, but interestingly, according to a JC article, by February he was already banned by TikTok. Whether it was because of this incident or not, or even if the claim was true to begin with, I can't verify, as not much is known about Mizzy prior to a few months ago, but I did a bit of sleuthing to get to the bottom of this, and can say that it's likely true, as if you look at the handles of his prank videos this year, it seems as though he's gone under the usernames Mizzy Isn't Banned and Secret Mizzy, so it appears as though even before this harassment of the Jewish community, he had already been banned by TikTok. It was also under these new names that he would invade a man's home, that he'd harass staff at a local library and rip up books, that he jokingly stole a woman's dog, and that he'd harass a group of girls at a train station at night.
Got some nice hair. It's nice and luscious. I'm perfectly fine. We're gonna die.
Over the past few months though, his name has been almost entirely forgotten about, and I hate to even bring him up here because that's exactly what he wants, for people to be talking about him and the latest crazy thing he did, but in complete honesty, I actually think it's alright because I believe that Mizzy will be forgotten about just as quickly as he made the news. Mizzy has obviously made many errors in judgment when it comes to how he behaves, but he's also made a huge one when it comes to his online presence. Let me put it like this. If your brand is to push things to the extreme, you need to push the extremes further each and every time. I think that MrBeast is a good example of this, where every single video it seems like he outdoes himself, because if you stagnate, if you stay on the same level, people will stop watching because you're not doing anything new, you're not taking it to that next level. And if your brand is that you're always going that extra step further, if you stagnate, if you plateau, why are people watching? Mizzy literally and legally cannot push the extremes any further. He's currently set to stand trial for his crimes, and it's likely that as a part of his punishment, he will not be able to post on social media. Unless he wants to do one big prank every few months when he gets out of prison, what he does is unsustainable, and with his YouTube, Instagram, and all of his TikTok accounts now deleted, it will be very tough for him to maintain his presence on social media. But Mizzy is just one of the many stories that we'll be discussing today. From users who have had their entire back catalogue deleted, to individual TikTok videos that have been erased from the public eye, in this video, we'll be talking about the most infamous deleted TikToks. With that said, let's move on to the next one that we have today. Across the Atlantic Ocean from London to New York, this is one that the Jets would rather you forget. This is Addison Rae. Back in January 2020, she was 19 years old and made this TikTok where she's dancing along to a song. Innocent enough, right? Well, for some reason, I don't know why, whoever was in charge of the New York Jets TikTok account thought that it would be fun to post a duet with her video, a duet in which when she bends down doing a bit of a slut drop, an American football comes flying out of her ass, kind of like an explosive dump, and right into the hands of a player who throws it. Within an hour of this video being uploaded to the New York Jets official account, it was unalived. Though, as the New York Jets would soon find out, once something is up on the internet, it will likely be there forever. This video is now firmly in the hands of the public, and it caused quite a bit of controversy. Without knowing the context, many people were outraged, and you might say that they had every right to be. I've told you who this girl is. She's a very famous TikToker and whatnot, and though she was technically a teenager when this video was shared, she was at least 19 years old. Many people didn't know this though, because of course they wouldn't. Not everyone knows Addison Rae, and some of them suspected that she might have been 16 or 17, which would have made this entire situation, which is already very strange, just that much weirder. Of course, some other people thought that it was funny, as TikTok has never been the most serious place, and many people thought that this was just the brand embracing the culture. Whether or not this is a good video is up to you, but the girl in the video, Addison Rae, didn't really seem to mind too much, as she reportedly retweeted it. Even if it wasn't for all of the right reasons, this did get people talking about the Jets, but now their most infamous TikTok of all time is no more. And the same thing can be said about some of the content uploaded by a group of TikTokers who recently struck up a deal with the Shein brand. Let's talk about their now deleted factory tour. This story dates back only a few months to late June of 2023, after a group of 4 TikTok influencers were invited to go on an all-expenses-paid trip to Guangzhou, located in southeast China, to tour a Shein factory. Now, if you're not aware, Shein has been having a bit of an image problem recently, one that got exposed to the mainstream by a 2022 British documentary, Inside the Shein Machine Untold. Within this documentary, it was discovered that employees on Shein's factory floor work upwards of 18 hours a day, getting paid as little as 3 pence per completed garment, with many of them being paid as little as $20 a day, and each of them can be fined upwards of 2/3 of their daily salary for mistakes. I discussed workers' rights issues within Chinese factories quite recently within my Barbie video, which you should definitely check out after this one, but the Shein factory is just yet another example of this. Now, if these influencers had watched the documentary, they would know about this. If they had done any research whatsoever, they would know about this. I suspect that they did, but money talks, and these influencers flew out to China, did a factory tour, and generated some positive PR for the company, but this would not go down well at all within their audiences. Now, as a creator who's done brand deals myself, I guess I have a bit more knowledge on this than most people, so allow me to invite you into the secrets of a content creator or an influencer, if you want to use that disgusting word. But essentially, when a brand comes to a creator, they will pay hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands for an integration, and they will not expect to make all of that money back by people going into the comments and clicking on the link alone. It very rarely happens like that. What they do get, however, is legitimacy, which is less tangible than any data or analytics, but essentially what they're paying for in part is for a creator such as myself or such as any of these women or anyone else you watch on YouTube that has an audience to represent the brand and to say, I trust this. And as an audience, we have a connection, and the idea is that the audience, will trust the creator enough to then think that the brand is good. If this happens enough times with many different creators, audiences will just implicitly trust the brand. A stamp of approval from a creator can be worth thousands in itself, so even if the campaign doesn't go incredibly well, it's kind of sown the seeds for something later, perhaps future purchases. And once that bond is broken between audience and creator, if you were to represent a brand like Shein, who are known to be doing some shady things, it can be very much problematic. All of the creators who made ads for established titles were exposed as people who don't really look into the companies that they work for and represent. I personally know a few of these creators, and at least as of the ones that I know, they didn't do this maliciously, but they were caught sleeping. These creators, I suspect, were paid absolute tons, I'm thinking tens of thousands, to go on this trip, to stay in luxury accommodation, to promote the company, and to lie to their audiences. They took the bait and they took the cash. And it gets even worse when you look at these creators, because this incident absolutely annihilated their image. I am only going to talk about one of these women at length because she was definitely the worst in terms of trying to defend her position, but let it be known that all of these women were just as bad as each other. Danny Carbonari made a vlog on it, which is still up on YouTube, I assume for contractual reasons, but all of the women that go on this trip come off as absolutely self-entitled, self-important, egotistical, narcissistic. They come off really awfully. They're sitting around a table, a luxury table might I add, having a luxury dinner that's been paid for them, talking about how they've broken through barriers and broken down walls to get to where they are, and how they're this great, main characters and all this. Whilst they're representing a brand that is exploiting people for next to nothing, and they surely know about it. They surely know. And speaking of Danny Carbonari, she is perhaps the most egregious of them all. She's the one that we'll be talking about at length. She's a content creator, plus-size model, and body confidence activist. If you look at her social media accounts, she loves to be vocal in standing up for causes that she believes in, those mostly being women's rights and fat acceptance. So for her to go to the Shein factory where female workers are mistreated, to dismiss any and all workers' rights violations, to brush all of the allegations against the company under the rug because she didn't see it, and then have the gall to say that as a fat model she's underpaid 60% of the time, but in this trip she was handsomely paid, it was laughable. I'm about to play a clip. This is the most hypocritical, egregious clip I have ever played on the channel. Play it right now.
So I'm just now making this video because I was in works with talking to Shein about how I can bring information from the brand to the consumer and how I can help them with debunking a lot of these rumors. We've come together, signed a contract, I signed a deal with them, and they have come all the way correct. So that's the first thing I want to note, is that they take care of their creators, and especially as a plus size creator, I am about 60% of the time underpaid, and they have definitely not underpaid me and taken great care of me.
Mrs. Carbonari, as a fat model, you get underpaid 60% of the time. What about these people? It completely undermines your point. She then went to defend it. She tried to defend Shein, and everyone just looked at her like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, the mental gymnastics you have to put yourself through to make those words come out of your mouth. is insane. People were not happy with her, and even until today, if you look at her Instagram, the comments on her pinned photo are ruthless, to say the least. Carbonari would then only pour fuel on this fire as she doubled down, sticking to her guns and insisting that she knew better than everyone else because she had seen the factory with her own eyes.
I've seen stuff with my own 2 eyes. If you think it's propaganda, that's cool. Again, you've never been to China and you've never seen what's going on.
That's right, everyone. Forget the documentary that has visual proof. Forget every report that's ever come out about Shein. Of course, Danny here has seen it with her own eyes. She has seen one factory with her own eyes. She was invited in by them. Of course, you know, if there was any sort of workers' violations, they would just show it to her, of course. Many people have since called this propaganda, and it was. It was. I'm offended right now. These days, if you look for her videos touring the factory or defending her decision to do so, they have all been taken off the internet, never to be seen again, except for right now. It's strange to say, but these kinds of things are just par for the course these days. Growing up with the internet, people are exposed to content that's suited for older audiences way earlier than ever before. Just by the typing of a few keys and the click of a button, you can be on YouTube listening to the most disturbed and deranged serial killer true crime story in existence. The true crime genre has really taken a foothold within Gen Z. For one reason or another, young people tend to really gravitate towards it. However, this can often come with some unexpected downsides, as often the people who consume this content forget that it is in fact real. To them, the lines have blurred, which can lead to some very unfortunate incidents, such as the Jack Wright Jeffrey Dahmer cosplay. This story takes place just under a year ago, in October 2022, a short while after the Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix show was released. Netflix had another hit on their hands, and audience members were told of the brutal and ruthless crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer. For many of them who had perhaps heard his name but didn't know his story, to hear of his unhinged, predatory nature was a huge shock. His crimes were like something out of a deranged TV show or movie, but they were in fact real. This man was a serial killer, he was a sex offender, and a cannibal. Though his crimes were committed more than 30 years ago now, as with all tragedies, it's best to treat them with compassion and respect. So when Jack Wright uploaded his Jeffrey Dahmer cosplay to TikTok, many of his fans were naturally quite upset. He captioned the video, "POV, psychopaths drinking milk by itself," referencing a long-held trope of mentally unstable characters in media that drink milk straight out of the glass like the psychopaths they are, and these characters include people such as Alex from A Clockwork Orange and Homelander from The Boys. But his audience thought that this might have been a bit insensitive. Jeffrey Dahmer was a sick human being, and his victims had family members, many of whom are still alive today. What happened to those boys and men was a travesty, but many people think that if you sensationalize Dahmer, if you turn him into a character, you almost fictionalize what he did. Worse yet is that people have pointed out the strange hypocrisy in Jack Wright being the one to dress up as Dahmer. If you don't know him by name, you might know him by face, or you might know him as the man that Sienna May potentially sexually assaulted. Just a quick recap for anyone who's unfamiliar with this. During a party in 2021, Jack Wright got extremely drunk. I don't believe I can show the clip in this video just because of YouTube censors. I really don't want to risk anything, but essentially a TLDR is that Jack Wright was with another TikToker called Sienna May, who apparently had a crush on him, and she's seen straddling him and making out with him. And Jack Wright is just completely out of it. He seems entirely unconscious. Sienna May would say that he did have some sort of consciousness. I think she said that he moved his hand, but based on the video, it doesn't look like that. It looks like he was just out cold. I discussed this incident more at length in my video on TikTok scandals, which you can watch after this one, but as I said, this did not seem consensual, and Jack Wright has since confirmed that it wasn't in a video that has gained over 20 million views. And then Sienna May did an interpretive dance apology, which was like really weird. That video, by the way, might have just been dethroned as the worst apology of all time this year. I didn't make a video on Colin Ballinger's toxic gossip train because everyone was doing it, but what were these people thinking? But I digress. This is all to say that of everyone on the internet to do a Jeffrey Dahmer cosplay, it's very strange that someone who was on the receiving end of SA would do it, considering that Jeffrey Dahmer did have a sexual component to his crimes. The video itself received more than 6 million views prior to its deletion, at which point Jack probably saw the negative reaction to it and thought that it might be best to take it down. Moving on, for this next one, take your blonde wigs off and put your tinfoil hats on, because we're about to talk about TikTok's censorship of climate change deniers. This is true. News sources started breaking in spring of this year, announcing that TikTok was done with climate change denial content and was now introducing methods to try and wipe it from the app. This sort of content is considered as misinformation and apparently undermines well-established scientific consensus about global warming. TikTok said that the changes would help empower accurate climate discussions and reduce harmful misinformation. This new change was launched on Earth Day this year and was symbolic to the Green Movement, but obviously it had its critics. As you might know by now, there is a portion of the population that don't believe in climate change. They deny its existence. If you're a climate change denier, this would be quite an authoritarian move because TikTok are censoring you. Many people released anti-vax content without it getting banned, many people posted conspiracy theories that could be scientifically debunked, but these videos still remain up on the app. Many people would argue that this was a step in the wrong direction. Others, however, have obviously praised the move, as it's very easy to become misinformed, and it's very easy to find yourself down some rabbit holes on TikTok that are unproductive at best and dangerous at worst. If you're a believer in climate change, it only makes sense that TikTok is doing this. Harmful misinformation spread to enough people is obviously not a good thing. Taking steps in keeping the masses informed and fed with factually and scientifically correct information is purely logical. But though this might seem like a new development, you might be surprised to find out that TikTok has actually been doing this sort of thing for a while now, so it's time that we discuss the full extent of censorship on TikTok. Please prepare yourself for some numbers and data porn because I have a bunch of facts and stats to share. If you're unaware, TikTok releases information about their community guidelines every quarter, so we can see everything about the sort of content it bans. Firstly, we can see that between July 2020 and March 2023, there have been progressively more videos deleted, though with a small dip in the past year or so. We can see that the number of videos being deleted via automation is steadily on the rise, and we can see that only a small percentage of deleted videos are ever restored. We can also see the reasons why content was banned. So the most recent quarter released was January to March 2023, and in that quarter, 30% of deleted videos were taken off because of child safety concerns, about 27% were deleted because of what's been called illegal activities and regulated goods, just shy of 15% were deleted because they were deemed to be sexual content, 9% broke graphic content violations, and then there was also 5.3% banned for harassment and bullying, 5.2% banned for dangerous acts and challenges, 3.1% for self-harm, 2.5% for hateful behaviour, 1.4% for extremism, and 1% for what's been described as integrity and authenticity. We can also see the countries of origin for deleted content within this report. The USA alone had almost 10 million videos deleted in the first quarter of this year, compared to the UK's 3.8 million, Canada's 650,000, Australia's roughly 800,000, Germany's 1 million, and the Philippines' 4.5 million. Then there's also a graph that shows us just how quickly TikTok reacted upon a report. 91.6% of the time, they claim to respond within 2 hours. Going even deeper, we can see the extent of TikTok's bannings today compared to years prior. Clearly, since the pandemic, they've been putting measures in place to ban accounts much more frequently than they did before. In January to March this year, they banned about 45 times the amount of accounts that they did compared to July to September 2020. They even included a list of covert influence operations in which they detail several accounts that they identified were attempting to spread propaganda. Even more surprising to me is that they've included data on government removal requests. Every now and then, governments over the past few years have contacted TikTok to try and get videos removed for various reasons. And TikTok actually released the information about where these requests are from. So we can see that the USA requested that 11 TikToks be removed, and they were, 27% of the time. Russia, on the other hand, had more than 300 requests, which were acted upon 97% of the time. These charts tell us that TikTok is not only becoming more quick with its content removal, but the frequency in which these videos are being deleted is absolutely on the rise. Is this an attack on free speech and human expression, or is it a safeguard against violent and dangerous content? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and whilst you're down there, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. She was being spied on as she took a huge steamy dump in an Airbnb bathroom. That's what's thought to have happened to a TikToker by the name of Kennedy allegedly back in April of 2023. You see, Airbnb has had a little problem in the past when it comes to homeowners abusing their powers to spy on guests. I covered one of these incidents in my video about banned Airbnb users earlier this year. In this instance, the people that were staying at this Airbnb were in fact being spied on by a homeowner in Comfort, Texas, who had over 2,000 pictures of his guests in compromising positions, having set up a hidden camera faced towards the main bed. Alarm bells were raised after the homeowner encouraged these guests to stand naked in a particular spot, probably not the best way to seem innocent, but upon suspicion, a male guest at the Airbnb found the camera. Naturally, the authorities were called, and the police found thousands of naked pictures of previous guests. This isn't an isolated incident either, as there have been several different versions of the same general story. And, well, you could say that a very similar, but perhaps even more interesting version of these events happened to a TikToker named Kennedy allegedly and her friends. According to The Independent, Kennedy was out with 14 of her friends to celebrate one of their birthdays, staying near Vancouver, Canada, when one of her friends said that she felt as though they were being watched. Initially dismissive, Kennedy and her friends eventually decided to investigate, searching every nook and cranny of this house for the slightest sign of evidence, and then they found it. As Kennedy explains, they found a very peculiar outlet that upon first glance seemed to be recording everything. As she says, she sends it off to the police to investigate it, and in the meantime, Kennedy makes this video. It blows up instantly, taking in a whopping 6.5 million views. News outlets then start picking up on the story, and Kennedy herself even goes on the news to tell her tale and to come out and spread this awareness, almost becoming the face of this sort of thing.
So many people are saying now they're going to look out for this sort of thing and be more careful, which I'm glad I could help spread the word about that.
But then something came to light that would blow this case wide open. Because as it turns out, there was no camera. After all of that, this was just an accidental hoax. The Sunshine Coast Royal Mountain Police confirmed that whilst this news outlet seemed like it was surely a fake, this wasn't the case. It was pointed towards the shower, it couldn't be used, and right there in the bottom, that looked like it was a camera, but at least according to a police investigation, that wasn't the case. This had just been a huge misunderstanding. The paranoid friend was just paranoid. The girls had gotten this one wrong. Kennedy had admitted to taking a Mondo Duke in front of 6.5 million people, all for naught. There were of course no legal actions taken against the Airbnb owner because after all, they were innocent. News outlets that picked up on the story had to provide updates, and of course, Kennedy had to take the video down as she had accused someone of doing something that they simply didn't do. Now, of course, this was just an accident. I don't think that Kennedy was trying to get the owner in trouble, she just jumped the gun a bit. Of course, this story shouldn't be a deterrent for people to search their Airbnbs just in case. But jumping to conclusions and posting these sorts of things before any legal conclusions have come out is obviously problematic too. But that's just one of the many deleted TikToks we're going to talk about today as we dive deep into this app, uncovering the worst that it has to offer. This is technically a part 2 to a video that I made about a month ago, a video that was deemed to be so offensive and vile that it was demonetized, so you already know it's going to be good. If you haven't seen that one yet, you can watch it before this one, or even after if you want, it doesn't really matter the order. But with that said, let's get right into it with a story about masculinity, betrayal, and backlash. This story dates back to November 2021 and involves a video that, if I'm not mistaken, is only 8 seconds in length. So yeah, we have no words, only 8 seconds, and all it is a video of this woman's husband crying outside, captioned, "Told my husband to go outside and take a big breath, and I caught him crying." Watery eye emoji, crying emoji. But despite its length and simplicity, it threw the internet into a frenzy because a lot of people felt as though this video was completely unwarranted. Many people disliked her terminology, particularly taking offense to the fact that she caught him crying. Many people also disliked that this video for the most part seems to be candid. It doesn't appear as though the husband knew anything about it, and so probably didn't have a say in the video being shot or uploaded. Obviously, the big overarching theme here is men expressing their emotions. A lot of men don't like to express vulnerable emotions to other people. A lot of men don't like to cry in front of other people, even if it's their closest loved ones, and so to force this on them, to many people, is wrong. Ask Men took a poll of males and found that 74% say that they cry in general, so 1 in 4 men claim not to cry at all, but only 55%, so just over half, said that they would cry in front of a woman. Most studies that I found claim that men tend to be just as emotional as women, but they just hide their emotions more. Many people theorize that this is a result of gendered conditioning from an early age. Many young males are told, boys don't cry. Many young boys think that it shows weakness, or it's emasculating, and though it's hard to argue that this behaviour is always healthy, at the end of the day, it's a person's choice whether or not they want to show or hide their emotions. Personally, unless I'm crying at a movie, I might cry half a dozen times a year. Like, if you put a movie in front of me and it's a good movie and it's got an emotional moment that's been well earned and I'm just fully immersed in the story, oh yeah, like I'll cry like a baby absolutely every day of the week. But in day-to-day life, it doesn't happen very much. Like, it's kind of a rarity. And then even when it does happen, my eyes burn when I cry. I don't know if it's normal. I don't know if it's like, if that's meant to happen, probably not. But like when I cry, it's like a devil that's had holy water poured on it. It's just like my eyes burn. It's not good. And there are plenty of men out there who suppress their emotions way more than I do. This man though seems like he can, and though there was a lot of backlash, of course there was a fair amount of support too. A few people were saying that these sorts of videos should just be out there on the internet. At the end of the day, this is an authentic man doing something natural. These people argued that the only way for men to express their emotions more is just to normalize it. Nonetheless, the video was mostly received negatively, and after continuous backlash, Mrs. Gibson decided to take the video down. She and her husband then created a video responding to the criticism.
We have a very, I think, unique relationship, and maybe not a common relationship, but we have an unbelievable amount of trust for each other, and so I trust Jackie, and I know her heart, and I know that it was pure.
Regardless, the video would stay down forevermore, and though Gibson would stick to her guns, later coming out to say that the critics were trolls, that they were obnoxious, that they were repulsive, even taking to Instagram continuing to defend herself, this wouldn't change anything at all. But from a wife to a fiancé, for this next one, we're heading down under to Australia and heading back to January 2022 because that's when this story is set. The main character of this tale happened to be none other than a blushing bride-to-be named Maddie Smart, who had what some people described as a harebrained scheme to contract a highly infectious and deadly disease. I'm sure you're curious as to the backstory behind this peculiar decision, so it's time to explain. If you remember, I said that this story was set in January 2022, which happened to be the time that the COVID Omicron variant was really kicking up. With each COVID variant, the virus became less and less deadly. By this point, many countries in the world were just kind of past COVID. Obviously, I can't speak for Australia, but over here in the UK, we had been back to normality for more than half a year now, but public opinion was still divided on whether we should be cautious or just get on with it. If you take a look on worldometers, you can see that this wave was by far the most infectious, but deaths had peaked a year prior. I'm sure you can remember, this was 2 years on from the initial outbreak. People had sacrificed a large portion of their lives to this. Obviously, with infections at an all-time high, many people knew that they were likely going to get it. And that's where Maddie comes in, because she was due to be wed in 6 weeks, and Australia had just announced that they would be temporarily shutting down indoor dance floors to try and curb the growth of this new wave. Maddie gambled that if she were to catch COVID prior to her wedding, she'd be able to go through with the event relatively unscathed. And so she went out to a nightclub right before they closed with the sole purpose of trying to get infected with a disease that is said to have killed almost 7 million people. And so, right before nightclubs were supposed to close their doors to the public, she decided to head over to one and throw it back once more for the road. She can be seen clearly breaking social distance, getting in extremely close proximity to several men, and even taking a sip of one man's drink. She decided to upload this video of her clearly trying to catch COVID up to TikTok, and that's when it began to blow up, taking in 121,000 views. And if you look up her TikTok account, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise. She made a number of videos in late 2021 and early 2022 where she seemed fed up with COVID's rules and regulations. The interesting thing here is that the reception to this TikTok was generally divided. Many people who were against COVID lockdowns threw her their support, as well as a few brides-to-be who could understand her rationale. On the other hand, there were a few people who came out to criticise her, with one user saying, "Sucks to be a healthcare worker watching this." Many people also pointed out a fatal flaw in Maddie's plan, which was that Omicron seemed to be a variant that people could catch several times. It could be that she caught it, and then prior to her wedding, caught it once more. That said, I think I could understand that if she had a bunch of non-refundable deposits, that she would probably take the risk. I only eloped my ex-wife Samantha, meaning that she-beast never got married, so I don't exactly know the ins and outs of it, so perhaps someone that does know weddings and stuff, someone that has been married, could let me know down in the comments if this was a smart move. A lot of people tend to say that wedding brain makes you a bit loopy. People wanting their special day to be perfect might make them do extreme things. And again, she did receive some support for this. Though, of course, as I've already mentioned, she did receive some backlash, and so a short while later, it seems as though Maddie deleted her video. It's not up on TikTok anymore. That said, it could have been TikTok that deleted it, trying to snuff out this sort of thing, but bottom line, this video has since been deleted from the app. But that was nothing compared to our next story. Allow me to turn your attention to the skincare brand Biore, who back in May of 2023 committed one of the biggest marketing blunders of the modern age after they created a TikTok, fully intending on getting people to buy their product by heavily referencing a shooting. Obviously a content warning here guys, this is a heavy subject, and though nothing is going to be shown and nothing too specific about the tragedy is going to be discussed here, we need to talk about this, okay? So this is Celia Max Brown, who in February of 2023 was supposedly on campus during the Michigan State University shooting, which resulted in the death of 4 people, including the perpetrator. It was a horrible tragedy, and it breaks my heart. But this sort of thing should absolutely never be normalized in any way whatsoever. Despite how common these sorts of things have been in the last couple of years, we should never accept it as just one of those things. Flash forward to May, and Biore would come out with an advertisement that would change everything.
Countless obstacles at me this year, from a school shooting to having no idea what life is going to look like after college. Supportive Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm partnering with Biore Skincare to strip away the stigma of anxiety.
We want you to get it all out, not only what's in your pores, but most importantly, what's on your mind too. Anxiety in my life has come in waves. I found myself recently struggling from seeing the effects of gun violence firsthand. I've had to intentionally set aside time for prioritizing my mental health. I will never forget the feeling of terror that I had walking around campus for weeks in a place I considered home, with countless anxiety attacks to crying alone in my room at night. My message to you guys is that it's okay not to have it all together. Life continually changes and your thoughts will too. Do things that make you happy and know everything will work itself out.
This is 100% legitimate. Biore actually made this. And it's tough to find words to describe just how tasteless a lot of the internet found this to be. Many people were asking, what kind of late-stage capitalism BS is this? Commercializing this incident. Seriously? I mean, in part 1 of this video, I pointed out the Jack Wright Jeffrey Dahmer cosplay, which many people thought was insensitive. In a very recent video, I discussed the Halloween Cheese Cemetery mukbang, which a lot of people thought was insensitive. This is worse than both of them, surely. It normalizes these sorts of tragedies. It's discussed in such a nonchalant way. It makes it seem like they're just a part of everyday life, and perhaps worst of all, it tries to make bank off them. This partnership was made only 3 months after the tragedy. And I kid you not, it's almost funny. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if I saw someone laugh at this just because of the absurd juxtaposition between Celie describing her panic attacks and anxiety and her shilling this product. It reminds me of the time after the war in Ukraine broke out and CNN accidentally aired the Applebee's adverts. But anyway, the video came out, but it wouldn't last for very long, because within 24 hours of it going up, there was, as you might expect, instant backlash. People were not happy with this partnership. The video was of course deleted soon after, but this is the internet, and a Twitter user by the name of Thomas had downloaded it, re-uploading it to his account, where it would be seen by 5.5 million people. Needless to say that Twitter went in on it. Advertising is all about connecting with the common human experience, and shootings are now one of them. This is so dystopian. This is dark. But not as dark as the blackheads this new Biore strip removed from my T-zone. This was obviously a media disaster for Biore, who came out on Instagram to apologise, stating, "We did it the wrong way. We lacked sensitivity around an incredibly serious tragedy, and our tonality was completely inappropriate." They added, "We are committed to continuing our mental health mission, but we promise to do it in a better way." Celie Max Brown also came out with an apology of her own, but by this point, the damage had... But from the infamous to the famous, our next story concerns Teo Cruz. You might know him as the man behind such hits as Dynamite, Break Your Heart, and Hangover, with the now 43-year-old having been a household name in the early 2010s. Flash forward a decade later though, and Teo Cruz would join TikTok, but his time on the app was short-lived. And if you go to search for his old account now, it's nowhere to be found. So where did it go? Let's get to the bottom of this mystery. If you aren't familiar with his music, Teo Cruz's biggest hits, Dynamite, Break Your Heart, and Hangover, were all released in the 2 years between late 2009 and late 2011. It's fair to say that with 3 big hits under his name, which to this day have a combined total of almost 2 billion streams on Spotify, Teo Cruz was, at a point in time, a very big name in the music world. But when was the last time you heard any of his music? Unfortunately, after these big hits, Teo Cruz found it difficult to follow up on them, and for years after, his music career was in a downward spiral. If you take a look on Spotify, his most recent releases have only hundreds of thousands of streams, a far cry from the hundreds of millions that he was getting before. So 10 years later, when Teo Cruz makes his TikTok account, people were quick to remind him that they think that he's fallen off. According to Cruz, people were relentless in their hate towards him, which took a toll on his mental health. At the end of the day, at least in terms of his music career, it's near impossible that Cruz will ever see the heights that he achieved during his peak. His career has surely seen its best days, and to be reminded that you're a has-been or that your life has peaked, to be told that you've already offered the world's best that you have to offer 10 years ago, one could make the argument that it's understandable that this took a toll on Cruz's mental health. Cruz described this like an ambush. He described it as toxic, he described it as mob mentality, and he also said in a now deleted Twitter post that he had even had thoughts of the worst. Cruz said that social media apps need more regulations to stop this kind of negative feedback loop from damaging people's mental health, and also admitted that he's not exactly the biggest fan of fame. He said that though the rest of the world might think that he's fallen off, he doesn't see it like that. Let's be honest with ourselves, fame is fleeting. Even the largest performers only realistically have a few years at the top. Most of the biggest artists in the world won't be there in 10 years, maybe not even 5. At the very least, they likely won't maintain their popularity. They'll be a decade older, their music will likely change, people will get bored of them, and the next generation will likely find other performers that they prefer. I want to rip your pee-pee out of its socket so that you can never reproduce again. Natural selection needs to take these weirdos out. That was the line of thought that a woman named Jessica Fernandez had back in January 2023 after she uploaded a video to TikTok exposing a man for glancing over at her several times and later politely trying to help her load her plates at the gym. If you haven't seen this video before, it went viral for all of the wrong reasons.
This is how to not approach girls at the gym.
I hate this. I hate when they're sweeties. It makes me so uncomfortable. Feral, like feral. Just watch. This is the 5 adds 5 pounds. Excuse me? You don't have to do that. It's okay. No, it's okay. I got it. Thank you, though.
Most people that watched this clip concluded that there was nothing disastrous in how the man conducted himself, let alone disturbing enough to warrant you uploading this video of him up onto the internet for perhaps thousands or maybe even millions of people to see. In Fernandez's case, she had more than 600,000 followers. That number is potentially large enough to ruin a person's life. And one person who particularly had a problem with this was a TikToker of the name Joey Swole. He's an avid gym goer and a large creator with more than 7 million followers. Joey stitched a response to Fernandez's video saying that her clip was unambiguously cruel and callous to a person who was only trying to perform an act of kindness.
But it's very sad that you took an act of kindness, this man doing something for you, being kind, and turned him into a creep at the gym, trying to make yourself out to be a victim, which you're not.
Joey thought that the man wasn't staring, but rather glancing in her direction. It could be that he saw her phone pointed directly at him and that drew his attention. It could be that he noticed her struggling with her weight, or that he was just people watching. There is a big difference between this and the actual harassment that sometimes goes on in gyms. The problem here was that to many people, this seemed like a boy who cried wolf situation. If you're going to blast a man's face all over social media for being a creep, you need to make sure that he's actually being a creep. Swole's response has been seen more than 8.5 million times. These are the sorts of videos that could have damaging effects if they're not handled delicately. And not only that, but it diminishes the experiences of people who are actually harassed in the gym. What made it worse was that many people within the comments of the original video were calling the man a white knight, saying that he would never offer to help another man with his plates, which is a completely unsubstantiated assumption. Perhaps this man in particular has never once asked another man if they needed help with their plates, but a lot of gym bros do. It happens all the time. I've been asked on several different occasions by various different men if I needed help setting up whilst I was at the gym. I mean, look at me, it was always going to happen. For the most part, the gym is meant to be a positive experience because everyone within those walls have the exact same goals. They want to get healthier and they want to feel better about how they look. By bringing in phones and blasting these videos on social media, despite it being quite normal behavior, people like Fernandez are putting others at risk. Not only that, but saying that you want to rip out his reproductive organs and make it so that he can't procreate is unbelievably spiteful and callous. In the fallout of the Swole video blowing up in popularity, Fernandez was confronted with the fact that this video was a horrendous mistake to upload. She created a tweet longer explaining her rationale and apologizing profusely to the man within the video. She stated that she had been a victim of SA in the past, and though it wasn't an excuse, it was an explanation why she acted the way she did, why she was so quick to jump the gun on this sort of thing. She reflected on the fact that both men and women deal with very different problems in the realm of the opposite sex. She also stated that she felt as though the jokes that she made in the video were absolutely vile, saying that it took a media firestorm as well as thousands upon thousands of people explaining why this video could be considered problematic for her to finally understand that this simply wasn't fair on the man. She announced that she was going to be deleting the original video in response to this as it had no justification being up, but she also stated that she was going to keep the Twitlonger post up as to not seem as though she's trying to sweep things under the rug. She then plugged her fan house, which was a bit of a strange move, but nonetheless, for the most part, this was actually quite a good apology. It was much better than many of the other ones that we'll be discussing today, that's for sure. In this video, we're once again delving into the archives of TikTok to uncover the unholy, gaze at the grotesque, and witness the worst of what individuals, brands, and international criminals alike have to offer. This is the third part of my deleted TikTok series. There seems to be a real demand for it because the first two both performed extremely well, and I know that there are plenty more infamous TikToks left to be discussed. You don't need to watch the original two videos before this one, by the way. You can just watch them after this if you enjoy it. The order doesn't really matter. Also, very quick, if you happen to know about any other infamous deleted TikToks that I haven't yet discussed on this series, please let me know down in the comments, and maybe if there's a part 4 to this, I'll get to it then. With that said, from the cruel comments of one to another, Zach Krickenberger is the next TikToker that we'll discuss. And that's because last year, his distasteful comments about a small subject got him in a large amount of trouble. So if you don't know Krickenberger by name, you might know him by alias. The Tennessee-based healthcare worker is known on TikTok as the Sleepy Paramedic, with, as of February 2024, more than 1 million followers on the app. The chances are that at least a few people watching this video will be followed to him, or at the very least would have seen a few of his videos in the past. But did you know that in July 2023, he came under heavy fire for some comments he made about one of his patients who happened to have dwarfism? I think that instead of myself explaining what he said, it might be better to get this straight from the horse's mouth. This is what the Sleepy Paramedic had to say.
My partner and I had responded to a call for someone who passed away. When we got there, the entire family was standing out in the yard. They were grieving, as you would expect them to. When we got inside, we found the deceased person in the back bedroom, and this person was 3 foot tall. Not a child, but a dwarf. And everyone at our service had always said, you know what, you never find a deceased dwarf. We really think they're immortal. They never get sick, they never call 911. We've never seen one. It's kind of weird. I've never ran into a dwarf in 12 years of doing this job until this day. Anyway, we were very professional. We went and told the family, we're sorry, they're deceased. There's nothing that we can do. These are the next steps we're going to follow. We're going to wait for the coroner to show up. I'm in the passenger seat where no one can see me. My partner is in the driver's seat and in full view of the family. And of course, they're all staring towards us because someone just passed away. They dialed 911. They're all looking at us, making eye contact with my partner. Let me preface this next part by saying that yes, I am aware that I'm an asshole, but it was really, really funny. Knowing full well that we had to keep a straight face and knowing full well that the patient's family could see him, I played this song on my phone while staring at him like this. I am not proud of my actions that day, but anybody who does this job knows that you never pass up on an opportunity to f with your partner, especially when it's an opportunity that rare.
As you might expect, a lot of people took severe offense to this and accused him of having a complete lack of empathy for the deceased. This man, regardless of his stature, had just died, his family were grieving, and he decides to whip on the Lollipop Guild song from The Wizard of Oz. Obviously, it's the song that the Munchkins sing at the start of the movie. What might surprise you more though was that there were a lot of people who came out in support of Krickenberger. Their argument for the most part relied on the idea that paramedics and first responders almost exclusively have very dark senses of humour. It's essentially a requirement for the job because each and every day of your life you're heading out into the world and encountering people who are on the very precipice of death. Some of these people will not survive, and sometimes it can get very tragic. Therefore, a lot of them will turn to very dark humour as a way to try and escape the pain that they witness. However, as Krickenberger would say later upon reflection, there's a right time and place to crack a dark joke. In sight of the deceased's family is not that time. This video would inevitably receive a lot of backlash. Many people with dwarfism came out to express their hurt that these sorts of things were said, and shortly after, the Sleepy Paramedic's video would be deleted. Of course, it was only natural that he would later address the controversy, apologising at length for what he did. According to Business Insider, Krickenberger said that he received hundreds of messages, emails and comments expressing disgust and disappointment with his first video. He also claimed that he had received death threats. For a while, it appeared as though this controversy would be the end of the Sleepy Paramedic. In fact, at one point, his TikTok bio read, "Sorry guys, too many threats. I'm out. Be good to each other." Even within his apology, he alluded to potentially calling it quits.
The fact that I've got 700,000 people on here that log onto this app and listen to what I have to say. Maybe I just need to get off TikTok altogether. Or maybe I've become so fucking jaded that it's time to look into doing something different.
However, in the end, that was not meant to be. Roughly 4 weeks after this incident faced tremendous recoil, the sleepy paramedic would once again return to tremendous support from his community. Many people seem to come to the conclusion that while yes, he made a mistake, he wasn't actually a bad person. At the very least, people were willing to give him a sporting chance to come back into the fold. And that reminds me of a sporting tournament that was forced to delete a TikTok after people found it to be insensitive and tasteless. So the sporting tournament in question is known as the FA Cup, and for anyone who's never heard of this competition before, Americans, I'm looking at you, this is an annual contest held in English domestic football. It's the oldest national football tournament in the world, and according to online sources, I've been led to believe that the final of the FA Cup is estimated to be seen by roughly 500 million people. For context, the 2023 Super Bowl was estimated to be watched by roughly 115 million people, so the FA Cup is watched by roughly 4 times more. What I'm trying to say is that the stakes are high, the glory of the competition is even higher, but the fumbles are just as low. Back in December 2022, Stockport County played Charlton Athletic in the second round of the FA Cup. This game was a replay after their initial match ended in a 2-2 draw, and during this match, a Stockport player named Macaulay Southern Hales went in to challenge for the ball when he was outmuscled by his Charlton counterpart. This led him to losing his footing, and he would crash at high speed into the surrounding advertisement barrier. In that moment, anything could have happened. When you're running at those speeds and with that power, it can be incredibly dangerous, and to be honest, Southern Hales was actually quite fortunate not to come off worse. Stockport's manager, Dave Challoner, even said that Southern Hales was an inch away from potentially fracturing his skull in the collision, going on to say that Southern Hales had a whopper of an egg on the back of his head. But that didn't stop whoever was in charge of the official FA Cup TikTok account from posting the clip, which was dubbed over with a 1980s advert for a Nestle Crunch.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
As you might expect, this video caused outrage online, with people on Twitter in particular being very mad at the clip. Former Premier League striker and current pundit Chris Sutton came out to tweet that, "This is really not on from the Emirates FA Cup. There is nothing funny about serious head injuries." To make matters worse, Macaulay Southern Hales' own mother would then pile on, writing, "This made me feel physically sick. What poor taste this was, and definitely not a joke when he ended up in the hospital. Just wow." Southern Hales was left in a neck brace following the incident, but would eventually make a full recovery despite the scare. In a BBC article about the incident, it was stated that the FA had apologised to the fullback for the careless video, and as you might expect, it was later removed. It's always a sight to see when it's a company who receive backlash for their social media posts, but at the end of the day, these companies are run by people, and to err is human. Though over the past year or so, we've been seeing more and more content that appears to be inhuman. Since March of 2023, TikTok has had restrictions put in place regarding AI-generated content. In particular, AI-generated true crime deep-faked minors. So let's talk about it. If you've got a TikTok algorithm like me, it's likely that you regularly witness AI brain rot on the app. Usually it's some obese professor dressed up in a suit with an Irish accent talking about how the class is about to learn about Skibbity Ohio Riz and open their textbooks to the history of how Baby Gronk became a Sigma able to speak to level 10 Gyats like Ice Spice. This is the kind of stuff I get on the regular.
Susie Baka waifu omai wa mo shinderu, nani? Ice Spice, you're looking kawaii today.
That said, just shy of a year ago, TikTok came out to say that it would be clamping down on AI-generated content in the wake of it becoming more accessible to the public. Something you might not have noticed, however, is that essentially every AI-generated character on TikTok is some sort of a grotesque abomination. They're usually some sort of a stereotype, more often than not morbidly obese, but have you ever wondered why? I mean, yes, these characters look kind of funny, they're so absurd that a viewer just has to stick around to watch, but another reason is that it's against TikTok's terms of service to use the likeness of a real person. Therefore, you can't generate AI of Kai Cenat and Aiden Ross talking about Rizonomics, you have to have an original AI creation of someone who doesn't exist. Furthermore, according to my source on this topic, The Standard, AI-generated material that depicts realistic scenes will also need to be tagged appropriately with the words such as synthetic, fake, altered, or not real. One reason is that people, when handed this technology, immediately take it way too far. Back in spring of last year, there was an arguably disturbing trend circulating on the short form app in which true crime victims would have their likeness generated via AI and they would tell the stories of their demise over TikTok. Many of these victims were children, and these children were victims of horrendous, unfathomable tragedies. And then some basement dweller would try to make money on a 2-cent CPM by telling the story of their death. These stories were also factually inaccurate a lot of the time. For example, in an article written by the Rolling Stone, they referenced an account called True Story Now. In one instance, this account told the story of how a true crime victim died, getting their name slightly incorrect, their race completely incorrect, and the age of their death off by about 20 years. There are some extreme similarities to an actual case. This is definitely trying to tell a real story. However, there are many small inaccuracies throughout. Whether this is carelessness by True Story Now, whether this is disrespect for someone who is already given no chance at life, or whether this is them trying to avert this policy, I can't say for certain, though I would hedge my bets on the former. The Rolling Stone article quotes an assistant of criminal justice at the University of New Haven named Paul Bleakley, who said, "They're quite strange and creepy. They seem designed to trigger strong emotional reaction because it's the surest-fire way to get clicks and likes. It's uncomfortable to watch, but I think that might be the point." These stories don't ask consent from the family, they constantly get facts wrong, and I don't know about you, but to me, they come off as incredibly disrespectful. This might be a symptom of a much larger problem, that mostly being the rules and regulations of AI and deepfake technology. We're at a point in time in which technological advancements are moving so fast, can we actually expect politicians to truly understand it? That being said, politicians aren't the only ones to misunderstand things. The common folk are just as likely, perhaps even more likely, to do that too. Case in point, Osama bin Laden's infamous letter to the United States, which has been absolutely blacklisted by TikTok. If you weren't active on social media in mid-November 2023, perhaps you missed this story which blew up in popularity for about a week on TikTok before the powers that be deemed that this was problematic and swiftly had all mentions of the letter removed from the service. Some context, if you need it, is that bin Laden, or OBL as I'm going to call him from here on out, wrote a letter to the United States that was published in 2002 that attempted to justify why he and his band of brothers did what they did. If you don't know what OBL did, there is a particular day in September in which we have a memorial for it. I apologise for dancing around this topic, but YouTube censors can be a bit weird for this kind of stuff. Now, for a long time, people apparently thought that he did it because he hated Americans and Western culture and freedom and all that, but there really was a lot more that went into it. And apparently, people didn't know that. Amongst many other things, OBL really despised the USA's attitude towards foreign policy within the Middle East. The States has been present in Middle Eastern conflicts a lot over the past 20 years, but also much before that, and they have arguably had a large hand in how things have shaped up ever since. Let me say, in case you can't tell by the sound of my voice, I'm British, and I don't want to be a hypocrite here, we are far from blameless either. However, post-World War II, America's influence on the world has been going up, only up, whereas Britain's has been on a very sharp decline. History lesson over, in late 2023, you might be aware that things kicked off once again between Israel and Palestine, and this is when people found OBL's letter to the States once more. Just to quote off Wikipedia for a moment, in the letter, OBL criticises American foreign policy in the Middle East, particularly as it applies to its support of Israel to justify attacks on American targets. It also employs anti-Semitic tropes. If you can believe this, a small number of people on TikTok saw this letter and later went on to upload videos saying that they could kind of understand where he was coming from. Many news outlets were criticised for arguably blowing this out of proportion, making headlines to make it seem as though the entire of Gen Z were just these OBL supporting lunatics, even though it was just a few. Of course, then everyone else started hopping on it. Ludwig, for example, came out with a video titled "Insane Day on TikTok," which was a risky title, essentially calling it a non-story.
That's not the storyline people want to hear, right? People want to hear TikTokers are now justifying the 9/11 attacks and praising Osama bin Laden. No, TikTokers are looking at Sam Sulek get fucking huge for winter. That's what the TikTok, I'm on TikTok, that's what they're doing. And not to say it's not happening, but it's just not happening at the rate that people are thinking it's happening if you were to just go on twitter.com.
If you want the other side of the argument, commentary YouTuber Achito then came out with his video, "Why Did Ludwig Post This?", in which he attacked Ludwig's video, saying that it was strange that he didn't condemn the people that said that OBL might have a point.
He spends more time in this video like downplaying the quantity of people posting these videos rather than actually saying like, yeah, although the amount of people making these videos is low, what they're saying is like disgusting, like the sympathy they're showing for like a literal terrorist is good. But he's not doing that. He's like, well, it's barely happening, guys. Like, just turn your head away. Don't look at these people. Ignore them. They're a negligible amount of people. But at this point in time, I feel like that's a weird take to have. Like, why not just condemn them? Like, let's say only 20 people made videos saying Osama bin Laden rocks, right? Let's say those videos have a total of 5 million views. That's like a drop in the ocean when it comes to, you know, TikTok views. But then all these other articles who are covering it, they're blowing it up even further. At the end of the day, why complain about the articles talking about the bad thing rather than like the actual bad thing?
All things said, this was only going to end in one way. If in a couple of years' time, Generation Alpha upload videos to TikTok, or perhaps whatever comes after that, and they found Mein Kampf, and they upload videos saying, oh, this was a terrible book, it was awful, and all that, but pages 45, 76, and 108 were absolutely incredible, entirely based, the exact same thing would happen. Some people weren't happy that this content was scrubbed off the platform, saying that censorship is dangerous and that we shouldn't be restricting information. Others, though, thought that the move was probably for the best, as the message itself could potentially be seen as dangerous. But as I said, TikTok was quick to make this content illegal on the platform, and so that concludes that.
I'm a trad wife, and I want to say the N-word now!
That's something that might have been thought by a TikToker named Lily Gaddis, who in June of this year came under heavy fire for her use of the word within a cooking video. Within this video, she's discussing the concept of the gold digger. The idea that someone only wants to date or marry other people because that person they're interested in has money. It's usually associated with attractive women that don't want to work, so they exclusively look for men with so much money that they don't have to. A lot of the time, interviews with gold diggers are done on nights out at 3 AM outside bars and clubs, with these clips often going ultra viral. Well, Gaddis made the claim that the vast majority of women are not gold diggers, but said so in perhaps the most shocking way she could. She said that the women in these videos are whores or fresh off the boat immigrants. But even that was arguably not as bad as what she said next. Let's see in her own words what she had to say.
Okay, this time I have a beef with the male community. I give my criticisms to all because we are all about equity and inclusion here, right? So I'm sick and tired of all girls getting blamed, or like guys, certain guys, thinking that all girls are gold diggers. I don't know if it's because you get your information from those street interviews in like Miami at 3 AM outside of a nightclub. You're getting the opinion of some dumb whores and immigrants fresh off the boat looking for a green card. Yes, they are probably gold diggers, but that's the exception. I'm the rule. Everybody I know who's married right now, they're married to broke ass niggas. And they don't care. We don't give a fuck about your money. I couldn't care less about your fucking money, okay?
Obviously, this video would see her a tremendous amount of backlash. She just so casually slipped the N-word into this video, no filter, nothing. And when the rest of the internet got a hold of it, the clip was naturally going to spread around. This led Gaddis to respond to things, but what happened next would launch her into internet infamy.
So a recent video of mine seems to have upset members of a certain community, and all the backlash just really made me, just really do a deep dive, like do a soul search. And after all that, I still couldn't find a care.
That's right. Instead of apologising or saying that she had stepped a bit out of line, Gaddis decided to double down, saying that she didn't care. Of course, this in turn made the situation blow up even more to the point where she was fired from her work at a care home in North Carolina. Her former place of employment stated a long message, but to summarise, they claimed that she was a new employee and that they did not condone her views. The post went on to reveal that her work was actually owned by an African American female, and it was dedicated to fostering a diverse, inclusive and respectful environment. In response to this, Gaddis also had her TikTok account removed, as you might expect, hence why she qualifies for this video. However, while on the surface it might have seemed as though she had ruined her life because of these videos, in reality, you might even say that her dropping the N-bomb was actually beneficial. Today, she has more than 130,000 followers on Twitter, and according to the tab, actually thanked the black community for launching her career in conservative media. Today, she's very active on Twitter, building on what she started on TikTok. She frequently posts and retweets content that some people would deem as bigoted or offensive. For example, she referred to Muslims and Israelis as sand people, dropped the F slur, and once more dropped the N-word. These tweets were all posted within a week of each other. Nonetheless, while she's still very much active on Twitter, her existence on TikTok is no more, thus making the N-word video in particular, but also everything she ever made on there, now deleted content. But Gaddis is just one of the millions of people all around the world who have experienced their TikToks be deleted. And in this video, we'll be going through a few of the more interesting instances of this happening. This is technically part 4 of my deleted TikTok series. I've already made 3 videos about deleted TikToks before this one, all of which you can watch after if you haven't already. In the meantime, let's move on to a TikTok account that was deleted after a shocking truth was revealed to the public. This is Madeline Brockway. Back in 2023, she was living the dream of many. She was young, engaged, and extremely well off. She was soon to be wed to a man named Jacob Legrone in an event that many people were calling the wedding of the century. Madeline came from wealth. Her father, Robert Brockway, apparently owned a number of Mercedes-Benz car dealerships in Florida, and it seems as though the Brockways wanted to spend big on her wedding. You can see from the videos on Madeline's TikTok that no expense was spared. Weeks of festivities commenced in the build-up to the event, with the big day itself being held in Paris and apparently costing roughly $59 million. Of course, to live a lavish life like this is certainly going to get people talking on social media. Today, Brockway has 50,000 followers on Instagram and 77,000 on TikTok. However, for as perfect as the life of Madeline Brockway appeared, not everything was as it seemed, as only a few weeks after she tied the knot to her beloved Jacob, did news outlets report that Legrone was potentially going to see life behind bars. That's right, this perfect couple were hiding a secret from the public, as the Daily Mail reports that back in March 2023, after a night out in Texas in the early hours of the morning, Legrone and Brockway had gotten into a fight within their gated community. A neighbour alleged that because of this fight, the police were called, and once the officers had arrived, Jacob fired shots at them. He was therefore charged with 3 counts of a first-degree felony and faces life in prison under Texas law if convicted. An absolutely preventable, rash way to throw your entire life away, it has to be said. However, considering that this incident occurred back in March, Madeline would have known about the potential repercussions that Legrone was going to see, and still decided to put all of this effort into the wedding. As this news story broke, it could be assumed that people insulted or harassed Madeline. I mean, to get married to a person who could be facing life imprisonment within a ceremony that cost tens of millions of dollars is an interesting life choice, to say the least. Both the Daily Mail and this Reddit post claimed that in response to this news leaking, Madeline had deleted her TikTok account, removing all of her videos. And it was also discovered that she had privated her Instagram. However, this would be short-lived. This was one instance in which the deleted videos would eventually be restored, as today her account is back up and running. Her Instagram is also back to public, with her beginning to upload again from May this year. And according to her gram, Jacob is not currently behind bars, having been seen with her recently. But we can get even closer to the modern day as the story for our next deleted TikTok is currently unfolding. This is the saga of Sky Wheatley's removed account. So Sky Wheatley, if you've never heard of her, is apparently a reality TV star and health and fitness influencer that is very famous on social media with more than 600,000 followers. On her website, it seems as though most of her content is dedicated to building a larger booty, with her having several books dedicated to the craft. As I said, this story is currently unfolding actually, and it begins with her TikTok account being taken down at some point in June 2024. For a person like Wheatley, to be an influencer means that having a large social media following is highly important. So she's been trying to fight for her account to be reinstated for the past 2 months. She made some social media posts about it when someone had apparently messaged her that they could get her account back. Relieved, she shared this news with her audience of hundreds of thousands. And I assume that she shouted this guy out in the process. But then, to Sky Wheatley's surprise, what she had actually recommended to her audience was a scam. This person was a con artist. And Sky would soon find this out, with a fan of hers DMing the influencer, saying that her boyfriend had been scammed out of $300 Australian after being hacked by this person. Apparently, Sky would have $300 stolen from her too, with this hacker showing absolutely no signs of mercy and taking no prisoners. Determined to make sure that more of her fans didn't fall for this ruse, she would make a video explaining that she had been slightly bullish, blaming this on her ADHD.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder to ignore anything that I posted today, which was a screenshot. Ignore that. I'm not going to say anything more because I'm too scared. But yeah, just ignore what I posted because I feel really bad now because I'm going through some shit. And I'm like, oh my fucking god, I shouldn't have posted what I posted, but because of my ADHD, I have what my mum likes to call knee-jerk reactions. So I do things without thinking it through realistically and rationally, if that makes sense. And I'm wearing my glasses because I'm paranoid about my eyeballs. And I'm going bald from stress. Okay, good night.
It's currently unknown just how many people were taken advantage of by this hacker. Flash forward to today, and Sky would give people an update on her Instagram, saying that she was fuming and raging, claiming that she had been on Instagram for 20 plus years, and she hadn't had the same issues on there. She finished by saying that she would get her account back, but that she was going to take a break. This break would seemingly only last a couple of hours though, because I went on her story and saw that only a couple of hours later she was continuing to post. Perhaps she was talking about taking a break from TikTok once she got her account back, I'm not entirely sure. Also, many people in the replies pointed out that it would be impossible for her to have been on Instagram for 20 plus years, considering that Instagram was founded in 2010. But that's neither here nor there. As of me writing this video, it seems as though her account might have been reinstated. I saw her post to her story asking if anyone had contacts at TikTok, which makes it seem as though she hasn't had her account recovered yet. But looking on TikTok, there is a Sky Wheatley account with almost 100,000 followers that posts fairly regularly and has videos dating back to 2023 and beyond. Maybe this was a backup account or something, with her now using this as her main account. With Sky having such a large following on Instagram, I think that might be the case. But for our next story, we're following along the same lines to discuss another female influencer who is known to be very beautiful. For our next story, we're setting our sights on Madison Beer, who was allegedly forced to delete a TikTok after people called her out for setting unrealistic body standards for women. In case you don't know her, Madison Beer is a 25-year-old American singer-songwriter, perhaps best known for her track Restless. She currently has more than 50 million listeners a month on Spotify and 20.3 million followers on TikTok, with an incredibly dedicated fanbase. She's clearly living the dream. But what would happen when some people thought that she was too perfect? Well, back in March 2023, she would upload a video of herself in a bikini onto TikTok, but after a short time, the video was deleted. with many people on the internet questioning why. The 5-second clip literally just consists of her posing in a bikini. It's got no audio other than a song, she's not throwing up any gang signs or saying anything controversial. This clip's removal was an enigma for a moment. It's since been revealed, however, that a possible reason this video was deleted was that within the comments there were people body shaming her and blaming her for the unrealistic body standards that society places on women. Now this sounds slightly strange, but please, allow me, a man, to educate you on society's expectations of women. I'm sure this won't be controversial whatsoever. To explain why some people thought this, a creator named Arcdelio made a video titled "This is Why I Hate My Body, Madison Beer." And within this video, he provided some screenshots of posts that people made towards Madison, saying that her being so beautiful was making them feel insecure about their own bodies. For the vast majority of women, looking like this is unattainable. However, Arcdelio and many of the people within his comment section was saying that the anger directed at Madison was done so out of jealousy, insecurity, and spite. Arcdelio brought up the hypocrisy that oftentimes, when women with bodies that do not fit society's standards of conventional beauty post pictures that show off their bodies, replies are filled with comments saying slay or gorgeous or queen, that typical response that if you have girls on social media, I'm sure you've seen before. However, when women that do have more conventionally attractive features do the same, such as Madison Beer in this instance, they're sometimes met with resentment instead. In the words of the top comment on that video, people want you to do well, but not better than themselves, because this makes themselves feel bad. However, if you agree with Arcdelio, blaming someone else for your own insecurity is not helpful, it's projecting. And in the end, this backlash might have been too much for Madison. Perhaps she deleted it for a different reason because she's never come out to clarify for certain, but jealousy aimed at the singer is currently the leading theory as to why she removed it. The video has remained taken down from her account ever since. Moving on, we're hopping from discussions about pride in appearance to pride in sexuality. Our next story features an Australian drag queen whose TikTok video was deleted after she reacted to a highly controversial decision to bring LGBT support over to rugby. This is Ben James, perhaps better known as Carla from Bankstown. Carla is an Australian drag queen who back in July 2022 had a social media breakdown after she had a TikTok video deleted. But to fully understand this story, I first need to tell you about a controversy in Australian rugby. In July 2022, an Australian rugby team called the Manly Sea Eagles unveiled a rainbow jersey in support for LGBT pride. Their crucial mistake though was that they did not inform their players before unveiling this new jersey, and some of these players weren't too happy about this. In response, a total of 7 Manly Sea Eagles players announced that they would boycott playing a vital upcoming game against the Sydney Roosters, citing cultural and religious reasons for this. The team would go on to lose the game, with none of the boycotting players even being in attendance. After this, the team wouldn't win another game all season, and their manager was eventually fired. Many people blamed the decline of their season down to this moment, and it also saw the players receive a tremendous amount of backlash, which is where Carla from Bankstown comes in. She made a scathing TikTok video calling the players gronks for this decision. She made the point that it's stupid these players are okay with wearing kits that promote alcohol or gambling, but draw the line at LGBT pride. Within this video, she's absolutely riled up and taking no prisoners. So let's take a look at what she had to say.
Alright, listen, but so it's come to my attention that if you couldn't already tell, bro, I'm pissed off, alright? I've just woken up, bro. Haven't even had a chance to shave my face, get my makeup on, nothing, bro, okay? I'm pissed off, alright? So first of all, I see on the news and all over social medias that there's an NRL, NFL, AFL team that, whatever the it is, bro, because no one cares about sport, that these players don't want to play because there's a rainbow flag on their jerseys, bro. First of all, we don't care. If you don't want to play, bro, then don't play, alright? How dare you? Who do you think you are? Oh, bro, talk about Jesus this and Jesus that, bro. Jesus made everyone in his image. So if he did, bro, then they're all sexy and hot as me. So why don't you suck my ass butt? The absolute disrespect towards the LGBTQAI plus community is absolutely disgusting, period. I've had enough, bro. Alright? Who cares? It's a f***ing rainbow bar. Are you that sad and upset about a f***ing rainbow? Alright? And I know for a fact that half of you are probably DLs anyway. Alright? Half of you are probably getting stuck by a guy or, you know, someone else on the side. So what does it matter to you? Well, you think it's okay that you're allowing companies that support alcohol and gambling? That's fine. That's alright. But God forbid, oh my God, haram, God forbid that we support the gays. Well, but get the over yourself, alright? No one cares what you have to say. No one cares about you. Quit your job, bro. Period. This is why queer people are afraid to come out, alright? This is why people in the media and people in sport, bro, are so afraid to come out, because there's people like you who are not supporting it.
Now, one of the interesting things about this incident was that it wasn't all just one-way traffic. Many people were in strong support of the boycotting players, so when a video like this came out, they might have mass reported it. This isn't confirmed or anything, but I'd suspect this to be the reason why Carla's video was removed from TikTok, because it was flagged for adult nudity and sexual activity, despite it not containing any. Carla would tag TikTok Australia in an Instagram post saying that this was ridiculous. She would appeal the video being deleted, but TikTok for some reason decided to double down and denied her request, saying that the video could not be restored. Once more, she would screenshot this and post it to Instagram, this time saying that she would see herself out. In fact, shortly after, Carla had posted to her TikTok saying that she wanted to leave the social media platform on account of its censorship. However, it appears as though she would only follow through with this threat for about 3 days, because on the 30th of July, Carla would upload again and has remained active on TikTok ever since. But from a protest on sexuality to a protest on race, this next story concerns a teacher called Lane Cogdill. Pronouns he, him, they, them, and Zia. Cogdill worked at a middle school in South Carolina teaching 8th grade, but later Z was fired after making some threatening comments in regards to the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, we all remember the 2020s BLM movement, right? Well, tensions were high back then, and while there were a number of people that wanted to use this movement as a way to make a difference for African Americans, to tell the world that their voices would be heard, others just wanted to use it as a way to loot and riot for the sake of chaos and destruction rather than for any meaningful goal. And in response, there were many critics of the BLM movement because of these hijackers. However, then a new voice entered the fray. There were some people out there that defended their right to commit these crimes, and you might be able to see where this is going. Cogdill was one of these people that decided to put out a public statement on Zia's TikTok, condemning the critics and supporting black folk that wanted to use the BLM movement to loot and riot, saying that it was their right to do so because it was black people who built the country in the first place. Even going as far as to say that if they wanted to burn the country down to the ground, they should be allowed.
Hey y'all, I got some thoughts about what's going on in the world as a history teacher who cares about racial justice. I keep hearing people saying, like, I understand protesting, but I don't understand rioting and looting. And let me just remind y'all, this country was literally built by black people. You ever been to one of those historic, beautiful cities built by black people, okay? Black people's bodies were literally the currency that our white founding fathers used to fund the revolution. So as far as I'm concerned, as a white person and as a history teacher, if your ancestors built this country, you have the right to burn the motherfucker to the ground. And white people, I'm gonna need you to do better, because your opinion on this is at best irrelevant and at worst, literally propagating white supremacy.
Word of this video began to circulate around the school, and as you might be able to expect, the higher-ups were not impressed. This was not the first time that Cogdill had gotten in trouble for Zia's social media posts. Parents would find this post, put it up to Facebook, and the trans non-binary teacher that had been employed at the school for 2 years was reprimanded and later reassigned, with Mix Cogdill being no longer welcome at the middle school. Cogdill would try to fight the reassignment, arguing that this wasn't said in the classroom, asserting freedom of speech, and claiming that they did receive some support. But in truth though, many people were horrified with these comments, and were apparently verbally threatening against Mix Cogdill. Parents also weren't too pleased that Cogdill had apparently given advice to children on how to hide their gender from their family, and apparently frequently ranted about systemic racism. It's very possible that many parents in this South Carolina school likely didn't trust that their children would be taught these topics correctly, with many parents apparently saying that the district course of action's decision was not harsh enough. The video where Z said that African Americans had the right to burn the country down to the ground is now deleted, of course, and it's been reported that Mix Cogdill now has a teaching job in Maryland. But weirdly enough, despite this incident mostly taking place in the wake of the BLM movement, most of the articles about it were written back in early 2023, and since then the reports have gone up dry. It was also around this time that Mix Cogdill would stop uploading to TikTok, with their last video being uploaded in April 2023. The comments have since been turned off, but it seems as though they were initially on, with countless people dunking on Cogdill, telling Zia to leave the children alone. TikTok is a platform that is home to a tremendous amount of creators, with an estimated 8.6 billion videos uploaded each and every year. However, not all content is made the same, and while some is perfectly fine to have up, other videos are taboo. They break the rules. They lead the person that uploaded them to being banned from the platform. In this video, we have a number of creators that saw their TikTok accounts be deleted for various reasons. Some of these creators I have a feeling you'll know about, others might be new to you. So without further ado, let's begin with the very first creator we'll talk about today. This one I had absolutely no idea about until I checked my following tab recently. It's none other than Sam's Taylor. I'd say it's quite possible that you might already know who Sam's Taylor is, but in case you don't, he really rose to popularity back in 2023 for his rambunctious content. If his name doesn't give it away, Sam's Taylor, real name Roshan Melwani, is a Hong Kong-based tailor that would make content around suits and his tailoring business. Nothing out of the ordinary in theory, but in practice, there was some strange behaviour in these videos. His most popular content would usually start with Roshan making some comments about the person that had just received their suits, the most common of these being young Chinese boy.
Young Chinese boy. Young Chinese boy. Tiny little Chinese boy. Little Chinese boys from all over the globe scurry to me like rats. Little Chinese boys don't even want a suit from me. They just want to be violated by me, absolutely.
He would then follow up by asking the person their age, and this was where things would go off the rails. Notice that at the start of these videos, he always has a coat hanger spare. If the person was under 18 years of age, he would keep the coat hanger and then use it to show off the suit that he made from a distance.
Young Chinese boy, how old are you?
16.
Say it again?
I'm 16.
I have zero consent here. Which hanger would you like? Let's use the wooden one. Today, 2 buttons, 2 Mazzoni buttons on a very, very narrow fish mouth lapel.
However, if the person was 18 or older, he would immediately yell out that he has plenty of consent before manhandling the people involved, oftentimes spanking them in the process after he got to describing their trousers.
Young Filipino boy, how old are you?
28.
What?
28.
This young Filipino boy, he flew to Hong Kong to buy a suit. 2 buttons, 2 glorious stone buttons. Check out the peak of my pocket square. My 4D fit. Nobody gift wraps planets the way I do. Nobody can show off a man's ass the way I do, and that is why men from all over the world descend upon my atelier, because they want a Chinese massage.
So the deal is, these videos were a mix of Roshan actually showing off his tailoring business, and because of his unhinged behaviour, these videos often went viral, with several other people doing impressions of the content.
I have a pasty, wet, chubby Indian who I'm going to violate. They scurry to me like rats.
His catchphrase, plenty of consent, kind of became the thing that people knew him for. Obviously, a lot of people might tune in to see his suits, but it's undeniable that a lot of people probably watched to see him violate these young Chinese boys that turned 18 last week. Now, you might think, well, the reason he got banned was clearly because he violates people on camera. He literally spanks people in most episodes. But you see, that's what the coat hanger's for. He would never do it to someone 17 or younger. Sam's Taylor was a mega viral account for some time. The people that signed up for his videos definitely would have known what was in store. It's Sam's Taylor. If you got a suit made, you knew a complimentary spanking was on the horizon. So if these people signed up for this, surely it wouldn't break TikTok's policies for violence or sexual harassment. Now, originally, I wasn't going to be able to tell you why Sam's Taylor was banned from TikTok. I couldn't find any articles written about it online, and it seems as though even Rashawn himself never released a public statement about it. The only reason I know was that I recently got signed out of my TikTok account. I couldn't remember my password, and I made a new account, and when I went to follow all of my old followed accounts, Sam's Taylor was long gone. And when you look up Sam's Taylor on TikTok now, the first account that comes up only has 54,000 followers compared to the 1.7 million he had before. And in the description, it reads that this is a second account. However, someone always has to be the very first person to break the story, and I have an exclusive for you guys. I reached out to Rashawn on Instagram to see if he would divulge any information on what happened to him, and to my surprise, he actually got back to me. I was lucky enough to get a video call with him in the very early hours of the morning, and so it's time to find out from Rashawn himself why he was banned from TikTok. Here I am with Rashawn, otherwise known as Sam's Taylor. So why have you been banned from TikTok?
I actually have no idea. So the truth of the matter is this, right? I was initially banned for my edgy content, okay? So I appealed and it didn't work, and I was on about 500,000 followers then, right? So I appealed and appealed, didn't work, so I thought, that was it, right? A couple of months later, I was like, you know what, this can't be it. I worked so hard to get to 500K. So I had my lawyers write to them, right? Not try to sue them or anything. Just say, listen, whatever mistakes we've made, you're not very clear. Tell us what we've done wrong, and we won't do it again, and reinstate us, please. And they reinstated me immediately without any dialogue whatsoever. Then I got a spate of warnings suddenly on my account. So I got this spate of warnings based on some sort of account ban violation. Suddenly they all popped up. They were all old. They weren't new, right? They were well before I was reinstated. But what hurts me even more is that look, let's use one of my great friends and clients, Tom Segura, right? Yes. I'll give you an example. The videos that we shot together in Hong Kong, he posted them first. He said, let me post them first. So he posts them, he gets 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views, okay? I post the same video, right, of me and Tom, shot from my camera in Hong Kong. It's the fucking same video. It goes to 1 million views overnight, and then I get a ban. I get it wiped. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the second video I posted with Tom, the same thing happened. After his dripped out on, say 2 million views, I put it, and his video was on TikTok and Instagram, and then my videos got pulled.
So was this,
and it's the same video. It's the same video.
Was this exactly? So are we saying these are individual videos that got banned, not the entire channel? These are like individual ones that TikTok said.
which led to that initial ban, which led to the first ban.
Interesting. Okay.
And then the second ban, like I said, I had not posted any edgy content, but all these violations from the past was suddenly, like that picture I showed you, all these violations from the past were flagged. So I'm being targeted by them because I'm in China.
It definitely could be that.
And I publish a lot of content with the leaders of Hong Kong. Okay, so, I've published content with our former chief executive, Donald Chung. I published content with our former chief executive, a lot of content with our former chief executive, Carrie Lam. And I published content with our current chief executive, John Lee. And all three are sanctioned by the US government.
So do you think it could be a political thing? Did it say, was there like a reason? Was it like...
They just called up old violation videos. So bro, if you have any other questions, I'm all ears, but that's my side of the story. And I would love an answer, you know what I mean? And I would love a way back in. So if anyone's watching and they can help me back in, help me.
So there you have it. We now know why Sam's Taylor was banned from none other than Rashawn himself. Maybe he was just unlucky and the wrong bot found him at the wrong time and decided to strike his entire channel down. Or maybe, just maybe, there was some conspiracy at play. But he's just the first of many different terminated users that we have today, from predators to murderers. So moving on, from someone who slaps meaty ass to someone who avoids meat altogether, next up we have the infamous vegan teacher. The vegan teacher, real name Katie Karen Diekmeyer, is a now 60-year-old vegan and internet personality, mostly known for her controversial actions on the internet and perpetuating the stereotype of the annoying, condescending, and judgmental vegan. She's done a laundry list of controversial things in the past. I would be here all day if I were to go over each and every little nugget of it, so to cut to the chase, the main reason why it said that she was banned was to do with Tommy Innit, a content creator known for his Minecraft videos, stand-up comedy, and ability to own Logan Paul on Twitter. Tommy Innit is known for a lot of things, and one of them was being a very successful content creator whilst he was very young. On Google Trends, it shows that he was most searched back in early 2021 when the Dream SMP was in full swing. But Tommy Innit was only about 16 years old back then. And so when the vegan teacher started trying to get involved with Tommy on TikTok, people thought that a woman in her mid-50s commenting on the business of a 16-year-old boy was very strange. For example, after Tommy made a video on TikTok saying that he was in college surrounded by girls, the vegan teacher said that he should get himself a vegan girlfriend.
I'm at college and surrounded by women.
Don't be scared, Tommy. Just follow that meat teacher, Miss Tofu. She'll help you find a nice vegan girl who will teach you what to do.
More than 3,000 of Tommy's fans stitched themselves onto this reaction, and the vegan teacher said that they were being vegan-phobic.
Tommy Innit fans, what the is the matter with you guys? You're losing your minds. I saw some of the duets that you guys did to that little 15-second video I did for him. You know, the one where I was just trying to encourage him to become vegan? What the are you guys doing? Some of you are crying, some of you are punching the camera, going crazy. You're like, off, stay away from Tommy. You know, he's at college, I'm a teacher. I'm allowed to talk to him. You've never been through any wars, you've never suffered, you have no idea about the world. If that's gonna make you cry, God help the next generation. You guys are f***ed up. Seriously. Get your priorities straight.
But what happened next would send the vegan teacher on a one-way trip to the book of the banned. For whatever reason, she couldn't leave well enough alone. A short while later, and Tommy would make yet another TikTok video about his infatuation with girls, as is quite common for him. And the vegan teacher would yet again respond. But this response was deemed to be highly inappropriate. Instead of me telling you what it was, I think it might be best to show you what she said right from the horse's mouth.
Hello TikTok, I got 2 more golden play buttons today that I'm gonna show to girls if they come around. Cause they do.
Tommy, the nice vegan girls don't want to see your buttons. But if you want them to play with your buttons, you're gonna have to show them your fruits and your vegetables.
So that's right, a woman in her late 50s woke up that morning and decided to make a video on TikTok where she would tell a 16-year-old boy that he needs to show vegan girls his fruits and vegetables. This is clearly a sexual innuendo, and while it's not exactly explicit, making an innuendo like this to a 16-year-old when you're in your 50s is never going to go down well. Maybe it's just a coincidence that about a week later her account was terminated. However, it was heavily speculated that this video was the straw that broke the camel's back. The vegan teacher would go on to claim that she didn't know that Tommy was 16 at the time. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't possibly say. But it's not exactly like he looks older. However, this story does take one last turn. The vegan teacher vowed that she would not give up on TikTok, and for a while at least, TikTok would not give up on banning her. According to her Wikipedia page, she was IP banned, and there have been several articles written about her attempts to come back being snuffed out by the platform. So imagine my surprise when I looked her up on TikTok and found that she's back on the platform all these years later and has more than 1 million followers. Clearly, it seems as though TikTok have allowed her back onto the platform, with her first upload on this new account coming in May 2022, about a year or so after she was initially banned. So while she was blacklisted from the platform for some time, she is now unbanned and uploads daily. But not everyone featured within this video will be quite so fortunate. As far as I'm aware, the next terminated user that we're set to talk about has never made a return to the platform since its ban. Let's talk about a person who thought he was playing Magnus Carlsen level 4D chess, when in reality, he had set himself up for a scholar's mate. It seems as though recently on TikTok, showing people how to commit crime has just been another part of the platform. Over the past few years, there have been plenty of examples of people literally recording themselves committing crime. For example, the recent JP Morgan Chase glitch, where people wrote checks to themselves and then deposited them at ATMs. Their account would then show a loss of money, they go and spend the money, and then after it was verified by a human, the money would be taken away, leaving people oftentimes in thousands of dollars of debt and in a life where it might be hard to do any form of banking from here on out. And in a similar fashion, Green Thumb Got Banned, real name Ryan Rort, decided to teach his audience on TikTok how he committed a financial crime. So let's take a look at his scheme.
What if I told you there was a way to buy things like this $100,000 watch without spending a single dollar of your own money, using business credit like this that you never actually had to pay back? Not to the average person, guys. This sounds crazy, but any business owner knows how this works. You know how personal credit works. Let's say, for example, you'll get a car or a credit card in your personal name. You're personally held responsible for that. So if you were to go get a credit card in your personal name and you were to go max the card out, you're gonna be held liable, and if you don't make that payment back, the bank can come and sue you. Now, what makes this different about business credit? With business credit, you are not personally held responsible for that line of credit. So let's say, for example, how I got this watch. I was able to open a business that I didn't really give a shit about. I went and opened business credit cards in that account. I then proceeded to go on, buy this for $100,000. I'm gonna turn around and sell it to a jeweler for $80,000 in cash, which now gives me the cash. I'll file bankruptcy on the company. I'll never have to actually pay it back because I'm not personally liable for that American Express card. It's all liable underneath my business.
Now, I'm no financial expert whatsoever. I cannot stress that enough. But even for someone as financially illiterate as me, this smelt like crime. People were out there in the comment section saying that the dude had literally outed himself for committing straight up fraud. Like, there's just no guessing around that. The video in question would quickly blow up in popularity as people began to take notice, with some people apparently even saying that they were going to get him audited. Especially as a self-proclaimed finance guru, you've got to think that he would know these things. And if he did, that it would be irresponsible of him to say that you could do this to his audience that might be watching him for advice. With the video blowing up, Green Thumb Got Banned decided to respond to the controversy, saying that he was just trolling and that he couldn't be audited because the entire thing was fake.
The funniest part about this whole video is how many of you guys thought I was being serious. You had to be fucking stupid to believe that you can open a brand new business, get American Express, and be able to spend $100,000 without any history on the business or any of that kind of shit. I was trolling another TikTok video I saw, and y'all blew it up like I knew what fucking happened. And now everyone's commenting, fraud this, fraud that, fraud this, but there's no proof of me for anything because it was all complete bullshit.
So at this moment in time, it seems as though Green Thumb thought of himself as some sort of 1000 IQ anime villain. He was all like,
"You foolish mortals, you stepped right into my trap that I planted long ago. You couldn't outthink the machinations of my mind. I was 2 steps ahead all along."
But what he didn't anticipate was that TikTok would just see all of this go down and then ban him from the app. Clearly, this anime villain's demise was his hubris. He thought that he was untouchable, but the gods of TikTok decided to smite this man. Whether he was a fraudster or a troller, he had clearly not paid his respects, and so Green Thumb Got banned. His name was a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and his account is no more. By the way, before we move on to our next banned user, I kindly ask that you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this and you haven't already. If you do, I'll give you a golden watch I got by using a business account that I just filed for bankruptcy. With that said, there's perhaps no banned user on TikTok more infamous than the OG TikTok celebrity himself. Things are going to take a bit of a darker turn now as we talk about the bidet. Now, the Budday story is actually one that I've spoken about on this channel before within my video about TikTok scandals. But since that video was uploaded about 2 years ago now, I think that it would make sense to go back over it. Nothing about his story has really changed much in that time, but in case you don't know his tale, it would be good just to go back over. So I personally classified the Budday, real name Buddy Haynes, as the very first TikTok celebrity. In the very early days of the platform, he was one of, if not the first creator that went really viral, but in this case, it was for all of the wrong reasons. He was first known to many as the cringy guy from the Why Do Good Girls Like Bad Guys video. Why Do Good Girls Like Bad Guys was of course an early TikTok trend, somewhat similar to the Don't Judge Me challenge. And in this trend, people would dress up like a geeky dork before covering the camera and coming out as an alpha male Chad. All of this while lip syncing to a song called Good Girls Bad Guys by Falling in Reverse. Long story short, many people found his version of the song to be quite funny, leading him to cultivate quite a large following on the platform. However, he then decided to start stitching himself onto other people's TikToks, and this was where things began getting strange, because he would frequently stitch himself onto young girls' videos, oftentimes stimulating making out with them through the stitch, or otherwise doing various other inappropriate things with them. This just generally isn't okay for a man who was apparently 26 at the time to be doing. And from there, as you can probably predict, he decided to DM underage girls. Girls started coming forward saying that the Budday was sending them inappropriate DMs, dick pics, and uncomfortable videos, and of course, I'll give you an example. So let's roll the clip.
Think about this tongue, all up in your mouth, all of your tits, inside you.
My theory is that the Budday likely hadn't had this amount of attention before. He went from a nobody to one of the faces of an emerging social media platform in a very short amount of time, and this likely gave him the impression that he had power that he could now exchange for relationships and sex. Obviously, once this came out, his name was tarnished, and TikTok would eventually ban the Budday for his behaviour. He would try to return to the internet several times under the username Freak Alpha. And then in January 2021, he would make a video under the YouTube username Papa Freak where he revealed his side of the story, claiming that he had been dealing with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and alcohol abuse, going on to say that he wasn't in the right state of mind when he was making a lot of these videos.
I dealt with a lot of depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, alcohol abuse, and there's a lot of those videos that I was not necessarily in my correct state of mind, and you know, that's on me. You know, I'm not trying to like diffuse the situation that, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay.
He would then admit that he did message people that were underage, but that it was never meant to be taken in a sexual manner.
There are conversations between me and some underage people. My intent is never to groom, prey, or sexualize anyone, whether you are of age or not of age. I am just a friendly person, and maybe that comes off to some people the wrong way. Maybe I need to be more, okay, so you're, you know, underage. I need to make sure I know that, hey, you know, maybe the conversations I have with someone of my age, I can't have with you. And if you are one of those people, I am sorry. I apologize. My intent was never to make you feel uncomfortable in any shape, form, or fashion.
Later in the video, he would confirm that he had in fact sent pictures of his tallywhacker to someone, but he also claimed that he did not send these pictures to an underage person. Rather, by my understanding, it seems as though he says that he sent it to someone of age, but then the picture was sent to an underage person by a third party, not by him.
As far as the picture of my junk, you know, I did say, you know, I was having problems with alcohol and anxiety and depression with schizophrenia. I wasn't taking my medicine. I was using alcohol to self-medicate myself, and, you know, as a lot of people do, we take pictures. And we do send them to people. More than anything, I was embarrassed that even got out in the first place, and then it got sent to someone who it should not have. I don't know how it got sent to someone that was underage. I am still trying to figure that out. 3 years, I still have not figured that out. I have talked to the FBI. I've, tried to do my own research, my own investigation, with nothing. I'm still trying. Once I know something, you'll know something. If you are that person, or you are one of those people, I am sorry. That was never meant to get to you. And I am making steps to make sure that does not happen again.
He would finish the video by saying that he was taking steps to improve himself and that he wasn't admitting guilt, but was admitting responsibility. The video was then disliked by 90% of the people who watched it. He would also state that he wasn't going to return to TikTok for the sake of him not opening the Pandora's box back up. But it's very possible that now he confirmed the allegations that he might just be flat out banned from the platform, even if he ever wanted to return. Almost 4 years later, and the bidet has stuck true to his word. He apparently still streams on Papa Freak. Please do not go and harass him, but other than that, he's not active on any other social media, at least none that I could find. His Instagram also seems to be banned, so I really don't think he'll ever be making a return. And I can definitely say the same thing for our next TikToker in what has to be the darkest story that I have today. We have to delve into the world of true crime for this one. It's the now convicted Jin Kid. Ali Abulaban, better known online as Jin Kid, was a fairly successful content creator with around 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, 84,000 followers on Facebook, 187,000 followers on Instagram, and 940,000 followers on the crown jewel of his social media empire, TikTok. However, while online he was growing in success, Abulaban's life off-screen was plagued with hatred, jealousy, anger, and the inability to control his emotions. There had recently been some problems with his marriage. Ali believed that his wife Anna had been unfaithful. Ali claimed that in July 2021, Anna had told him that she had been unfaithful to him, and while high on cocaine, Ali had punched her 3 times. It was also said that on another occasion he had pushed her, causing her to hit her head on the fridge. He therefore had a history of domestic violence. But as with many of these cases, it would later escalate. It was on the 18th of October 2021 when a then 32-year-old Ali Abulaban had been asked to move out of his San Diego home by his wife. But according to Sky News, 3 days later he returns to the apartment while Anna was away. During this time, it's also said that he set up a Discord call onto his 5-year-old daughter's iPad as a way of listening in and spying on Anna. Hours later, and while he was listening in, he heard her and another man talking. According to the Daily Mail, prosecutors believed that he had copied a key to Anna's home, which allowed him to access the apartment. And so he would race there and then fatally shoot both Anna and a male named Rayburn Barron, who was 29 at the time. He then fled the building and went to pick up his 5-year-old daughter from school with the murder weapon still in his possession. He told his daughter that he had hurt Mummy, and at some point he also confessed these crimes to his own mother while over the phone. While Abulaban's 5-year-old daughter was present with him in the car, the police stopped them and arrested Ali. It would take almost 3 years for the trial to come to its conclusion. Ali defended himself by saying that he was high on cocaine and that none of this was premeditated. He just saw reds and caused all of this to happen. He and his attorney sought voluntary manslaughter, but the jury wasn't having any of it, and neither was the judge. I'm about to show you a clip of what the judge had to say, as well as the reaction to it within the courtroom when the news was finally delivered.
As he sits here today, I don't know if he's really sorry. I have serious reservations about it. I know he's sorry about the consequences. The bottom line here is he will die in prison. He will never be a free man. He will take his last breath there. Please.
According to the San Diego Union Tribune, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive terms of life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 50 years to life. Therefore, it seems as though Abulaban will never see the light of day outside of prison ever again. He would upload one final video to his YouTube account called Murder or Manslaughter, where it seems as though he would try and convince the internet of his side of the story. He would also come out on Instagram with this post. Audio listeners, if you care to read it, I'd advise looking at the screen now. I'm not going to go over all of it, but you can pause the video now if you want to read it. To summarize, he said that he was no longer going to use his platform as a means of trying to defend himself. He stated that he was eternally devastated by the fact that he hurt the love of his life and fatally injured the man beside her, and he apologized to everyone for letting them down. People were obviously not having this, with many people angry at the fact that after all of this time, he has still not come forward with the fact that what he did was premeditated. Many people think that he planned to kill the pair. To go to the apartment with a loaded gun after bugging an iPad and driving for 15 minutes to travel there gave him plenty of time to opt out, even if he was high on cocaine. Nonetheless, he was obviously banned on TikTok for this. That absolutely goes without saying. But it seems as though his other socials are fine. His YouTube account is still up, and apparently still monetized, and his Instagram and Twitter are also up. So in this case, maybe it's just because he was the most famous on TikTok, but they went in the hardest on him. The more important thing was that the actions of Ali Abulaban back on that day in October 2021 led to 2 people being deceased, 1 person spending the rest of their life behind bars, and 1 poor little girl growing up in a world without either parent. That was an absolutely low note to end on, but this video is now coming to a close. So guys, if you made it this far into the video, I want to thank you for going on this journey down memory lane with me. If you're new to the channel, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You're essentially 2 hours in, guys, so I've got to assume that you like this content. Show it by smashing that like and subscribe button. I would appreciate it so much. If you're still looking for more content though, then might I suggest my compilation on the internet's banned content. That was the 2nd volume of my Book of the Banned series, where I covered banned content from the likes of Reddit, Tinder, DoorDash, Disney, and more. Plus, it's on 99,000 views and I really want to see it get up to 6 digits. So go check that one out next. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Aside from that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.